Apart from word of mouth, what other channels do architects have to have marketing as such? Like it really depends on what kind of a practice you have, and then all of these are channels only, right? Like the social media is one of your channels. Having a website say probably is your other channel. Being active on like these social media channels, your personal whatever, LinkedIn for that matter. Then in terms of you know getting published in different magazines, being like participating in several competitions and discussions. There are so many debates also these days that happen
Yeah.
within the design community.
Yeah.
And the media outlets also have now like grown like crazy. There are so many now. Digital, print media, it's a huge world out there. So it really depends on who you are targeting. If in the end is about your audience, like who is your audience and what is it that you want to say to them. So I think the knack is like about picking the right channels to say what you want to say. And I think
Yeah.
that's where your next client is probably.
Mm. I think I would like to address this question when you said that architects are sort of legally not allowed to market themselves.
Yeah.
It is important for us to, there have been debates and there have been questions raised because when this norm was probably formed or this rule was probably written, it was a different circumstance, a very different kind of time, a very different situation. Now things have changed. And also the number of architects, the sheer amount of architects graduating every year is crazy. Initially, in every city, there would be, say, probably handful that you knew architects who
Yeah.
practice as
Yeah.
architecture. Now it has exponentially increased in number. And I think we should not look at it from the point of whether they are architects or not. Any designer,
Yeah.
any creative person should have the agency to showcase their own work. So you call it marketing or you call it whatever. And I think it's high time that everybody starts looking at architecture practice as a business.
It is a business.
We sort of, like architects don't like that word.
Because it's a
Don't want
noble
to call
profession,
themselves
that's
as
why.
business. It is, yes, it is a noble profession, but there is a reason why architects are now venturing into doing MBAs or understanding, or doing other allied learning so that that helps them in practice itself. Because design and architecture is, I think, at the very basic of architecture.
Yeah.
There is a whole lot out there that you need to know and understand to run a practice,
Yeah.
an architecture practice. So I think somewhere this norm, it's high time it needs to change because it's unfair. Unfair to architects, unfair to creative people. I mean, I'm not sure if it's meant for other. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I agree that we are not allowed to put out hoardings and boards and everything, billboards up, right? But I think that this is my personal opinion, right? Even if they allow, even if the body allows to put out ads, how many architects would be able to do that? I think only the bigger firms would be able to do that, right?
I think what could be governed is, as you said, the channels.
Yeah.
Like, how do you talk about yourself? Are you talking about work or are you doing hardcore marketing? I think that difference, if it's established, then I think it'll be better for everybody. Like, you're allowing the architects to showcase their work like a portfolio.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong in
Yeah.
it. But I would myself, as an architect, would refrain from doing hardcore, full-fledged, out there commercial marketing because I don't think that sort of goes with the inherent nature of the profession.
Yeah.
So I think if that is defined well, like let's not call it architects can't market
Yeah.
themselves. You decide the channels.
Decided. And I think in the right
Or sort of.
proportion, COA, if you read the guidelines in detail, there are a lot
Yes.
of spaces where you can actually put your name out.
Yes.
It's not in an absurd manner, but they have allowed to put your name out in the nicest way they can. Yeah.
Yeah. I see you. The forum doesn't mention anything about, I think, digital.
That's because when it was written, there was no digital platform.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think it's also about sustenance after a point of time. The architecture now means it's come to that point where it's about the sustenance of the field.
Yeah.
Like, how do you keep your practice running in a crowded market? fine, word of mouth works, but is that enough to now say there are so many things financially that have changed
Definitely.
in terms of inflation? So is that much enough is the question. And I think that sustenance is the question of sustenance is pushing now
Mhm.
even architects and designers to explore other avenues. What is there out there other than
Yeah.
this conventional way of approaching this field? Like rightly said, we needs to be relooked at. But I
Right.
mean, this whole using the whole media and communications for channels for sort of generating revenue is a fabulous way, and it really
Right.
works.
Yeah. So, in some manner, you have answered my next question, which was why is it important for architects and designers to look at branding these days? As you said,
Yeah.
like the sustenance of it and keeping the practice
Yeah, and
alive.
correct. Everybody, see, no matter how much we want to sort of deny this, but everybody is a brand. Everybody has, the moment you step into a group in public, you have to present yourself in a certain
Yeah.
way. And there is an image that you have to sort of build and things like that. So you are a brand, whether you like it
Yeah.
or not. And I think there's no harm, especially say for us for students who are just starting out or whatever, whether they want to get into communications practice, whatever. It's very good and more important now so than other time to have
Yeah.
a very comprehensive presence, online presence in some way or the other.
And
See, if there was a time when portfolios had like more printed portfolios, I'm sure she hasn't, even I have printed
yeah.
portfolios. Yeah. And the beauty of that is okay, that's great. But like these days, it's like you send an application online. It's all digital. So
Yeah.
I think in a way, if you have a strong digital presence in some way or the other, it
And
will only help you because, like, okay, I have to find out more about somebody. I'm going to go look for them. Whether it is a client looking for an architect looking for an employee or whatever. It's a very basic instinct to go and look for them on Google. So I think in a way, building yourself as a brand in any way that you can is a
Right.
good start.
Right.
right.
Yeah, and I think it largely when that brand sort of extends to your practice, that is when everything works in sync, and with so you also have a certain level of consistency in putting across the tone and the messaging that you want to send across, say probably to your audience, to your clients, or your like a fellow fraternity also.
Right.
And I think architects, like 80% of them have this inherent sense of being, like that individual brand. Everybody, you can identify them. Oh, this person is like, this
Yeah.
is what they talk about. This is
Yes.
how they present themselves.
Yes.
So I think brand building starts there itself. And architects are good at it. So branding or brand building is extremely essential. If that involves personal branding also, that's even better.
What exactly would be a role of a communications agency in terms of providing branding to an architecture firm? What things you guys take care of for your clients?
So when we say communications agency, it is often confused with social media,
Yeah.
which is just a method, one tool of outreach. There are several other digital media outreach tools available. Then there is a whole lot that are not digital, that are say like PR, your awards, your competitions. All of those things are they're not digital. So it depends on where the firm is, the scale, what is it that they are targeting, or what is the niche, what is their intent, where do they want to head, what are the aspirations. Depending on that, what works best for them. We just come up with a comprehensive communication strategy for
Right.
that
Be
for a
the
certain
voice.
exactly help them through campaigns or whatever or all these different mediums that are available. So it's never like a set rule book because it really depends on the practice. Certain practices have a different moves. Not everybody does everything. Also, is everybody is doing everything? How do you position them as a separate voice in the middle of so many voices? When it comes to communications, there are several channels available. Social media is a very small one of them. Yes, it's very effective, but there are others you can tap on to
Can you
more
elaborate on
audience.
those? I have always wondered, why architects are spending so much time on one single channel. So, what are the other
Right.
channels they can figure out?
Like PR, where publication bit, where you sort of pitch your project, some ideas or expertise to publications, magazines. And that's how you reach a certain audience. Then there is participating in awards, competitions, having events, talk, even for a smaller city where there are local
Networking
groups.
groups. Yeah.
There are those Rotary groups,
Yeah.
and if you join, your work well. So it depends on where you are and what you want as a brand and where you want to reach. Based on that, there are several avenues you can explore. But there is no end to it. It's a very wide door, wide open.
Just for the audience to understand the difference between branding, communications, and marketing, can you elaborate on that?
So I think this is a little bit of a confusion a lot of people who come to us also have. So in simple terms, branding is something where you are trying to build an identity. Branding is about building an identity for your practice or business. It's about your personality, your values, your visual identity, the way the world is going to see you or the way you want the world to see you. When it comes to marketing, it's a little more targeted in terms of sales and leads. It's about hardcore numbers and a direct approach to convert your lead. There's a lot of market research involved in marketing to get to your audience directly. Now, communications and PR is what you say to that audience.
That will be a
Communications
part
and
of branding, right?
No, so there is a thin line between all of those things. Like,
Okay.
see, communication is also to do with discourse and discourse building. So you are also giving the industry something. You are giving industry insights, adding value to the discipline through communication. Branding is the identity bit. They're tied to each other.
Yeah.
Some-
Communication
Yeah.
is the first layer to build the brand, drive the sales, and you convert your leads. And that's called marketing, right?
Yes, ideally you would put branding first.
Okay.
Because
then you put
that branding will also give your brand a little bit of consistency in terms of everything, tone, voice, visual identity, everything.
yes.
So that sets your tone for the sort of communication channels. Then your communication furthers it in terms of, okay, what is it that we are really trying to say? What is it that we do? And what is it that we do differently? Or how do we add value to the whole scene? And marketing probably then is the next step where it's like, okay, how do we convert now
Yeah.
to,